18 U.S. towns where time literally stopped, and nobody noticed. There's a town in Nebraska where the last business closed in 1987, and the sign on the door still says, "Back in 15 minutes." Nobody took it down. Nobody locked the door. Nobody noticed, because there was nobody left to notice. This isn't a ghost town story. Ghost towns are dramatic. They have a moment, a mine that ran dry, a flood that came through, a railroad that rerouted. Ghost towns know they're ghost towns. They have the decency to look abandoned. The towns on this list are different. These are places where time didn't stop all at once. It stopped incrementally, quietly, the way a conversation ends when one person starts answering in one-word sentences and the other person keeps talking for another 20 minutes before realizing the connection dropped. One business at a time, one family at a time, one graduating class that didn't come back, then another, until the school closed too and the building became a grain storage facility, and everyone agreed that was probably fine. These are towns where the gas station is still technically open 3 days a week, where the diner hasn't updated the menu since Clinton was in office the first time, where the population sign on the highway entrance has been quietly, manually revised downward so many times that the paint layers tell a demographic story if you look closely enough. And here's what makes them genuinely unsettling, in a way that no haunted house or ghost town can quite replicate. Some of them still have people in them, people who wake up every morning in a place the rest of the country forgot to include in its calculations. People who will tell you, if you stop and ask, that it's fine, that it's quiet, that they like it that way. And some of them are telling the truth. We're counting down 18 U.S. towns where time literally stopped, the ones with a working post office and 0 restaurants, the ones with a school district and 4 enrolled students, the ones with a mayor and no one running against him, because no one running against him would require a second person to show up. One town on this list threw its last 4th of July parade in 1993, and the floats are still in the barn. Another has a functioning bar, no grocery store, and a population that considers this a reasonable trade. And the last one on this list, trust me, you are not ready for what time stopping looks like when it happens to a place that used to matter enormously. Hit subscribe because the next time you take a wrong turn through the American interior, you'll want to know which towns you've accidentally stepped inside of. This channel is your field guide to the parts of America that the algorithm never covers. Let's get into it. Number 18. Cahokia Heights, Illinois. Cahokia Heights is what happens when 5 struggling towns look at each other, decide that merging might be the answer, and then discover that combining several things that aren't working doesn't automatically produce one thing that does. In 2021, the communities of Allerton, Brooklyn, Centerville, Cahokia, and Washington Park in southwestern Illinois voted to merge into a single municipality called Cahokia Heights. The idea was consolidation of services, administrative efficiency, a combined tax base that might actually support the infrastructure all 5 communities desperately needed. It was a genuinely creative response to a genuinely difficult situation, and the situation is worth understanding. This region of Illinois, directly across the Mississippi River from St. Louis, represents some of the most severe municipal distress in the country. Poverty rates in the combined communities range from 35% to over 50%. Infrastructure has been failing for decades. Water systems, roads, public buildings operating well past their functional lives on budgets that cannot support replacement. Centerville, one of the component communities, made national news in 2019 when it was revealed that raw sewage was backing up into residents' homes during heavy rain events. A third-world infrastructure failure happening 20 minutes from the Gateway Arch. Population of the merged city, approximately 15,000, down from combined peaks that were nearly double that figure. Median home price, around $45,000, which sounds like a deal until you understand that what $45,000 buys you here comes attached to a municipal situation that no price tag fully compensates for. What time stopping looks like in Cahokia Heights is not the romantic stillness of a forgotten small town. It is the specific arrested development of communities that were left behind structurally and systematically, that had investment and population and economic activity and watched it leave, following the freeways and the subsidies that pointed everyone towards somewhere else. The merger may help. It is too early to know. What is certain is that the people here have been navigating a situation that most of the country drives past on the way to St. Louis without slowing down, and they have been doing it for longer than most people realize. One longtime Centerville resident, asked by a journalist about the sewage crisis, said, "We've been calling about this since the 90s. At some point, you stop expecting anyone to be surprised." That sentence contains more information about the experience of time stopping than any statistic does. And if Cahokia Heights represents time stopping through structural neglect, the next town on this list shows what it looks like when time stops through something quieter and stranger, the specific inertia of a place that simply never found a reason to change. Number 17. Monowi, Nebraska. Monowi, Nebraska has a population of 1. Not approximately 1, not functionally 1. Officially, legally, census-verified 1. 1 person, 1 resident, 1 human being constituting the entire population of an incorporated municipality in the United States of America in the 21st century. Her name is Elsie Eiler. She is in her 80s. She is the mayor of Monowi. She is also the municipal clerk and the person who grants the liquor license. She grants the liquor license to herself for the tavern she operates, which is the only business in Monowi and which she has been running since her husband Rudy died in 2004, at which point the population dropped from 2 to 1. Elsie pays taxes to herself, essentially allocating her municipal tax dollars to maintain the street light and the one road the town is responsible for. She runs the tavern. She maintains a library, Rudy's library, a collection of thousands of books he accumulated over a lifetime, because Rudy loved books, and she has kept them exactly as he left them. Monowi is not sad. Exactly. Elsie does not describe it as sad. She has customers at the tavern. She has a life. She has made a choice, repeatedly and consciously, to remain in the place where her life happened rather than leave for somewhere with more people and less history. But Monowi is the logical endpoint of a trajectory that dozens of Nebraska towns are currently somewhere on. The young people leave for Omaha or Lincoln or somewhere with a job market. The old people stay because the land is theirs and the community is what's left of the people they grew up with. The businesses close when the owners retire and nobody buys them. The school consolidates with a neighboring district. The post office reduces its hours, then its days, then gets reclassified. And eventually, if the trajectory runs long enough and the remaining residents live long enough and nobody new arrives, you get Monowi. Population 1, Mayor 1, library open by appointment, which in Monowi means whenever Elsie is there, which is always, because Elsie is the entire town. Here's what makes Monowi genuinely moving, rather than simply strange. Elsie knows exactly what she's doing. She knows she is the last. She knows that when she's gone, Monowi will be incorporated out of existence, absorbed into a county that will maintain the road as a county road and let the buildings finish what time started. She's staying anyway, because Rudy is buried here, because the library is his, because some places deserve to have someone stay until the end. Time stopped in Monowi sometime in the mid-20th century. Elsie is just the only one left to keep the lights on while it finishes. And if Monowi is time stopping at its most intimate, the next town shows what it looks like when an entire regional economy stops. All at once, in a single generation, with photographs to prove what used to be there. Number 16. Rankin, Pennsylvania. Rankin, Pennsylvania sits on the Monongahela River just east of Pittsburgh, close enough to the city that on a clear day you can see the skyline. Close enough that the economic catastrophe that hit Rankin in the 1980s makes the geography feel almost cruel. Rankin was a steel town. Specifically, it was a town built to house workers at the Carnegie Steel Works, later U.S. Steel, that lined the Monongahela Valley in one of the greatest concentrations of industrial production the world had ever seen. The Mon Valley, as it's known locally, was, at its peak, producing more steel than most countries. Rankin was part of that. Rankin's identity was entirely that. When U.S. Steel closed its Mon Valley operations in the early 1980s, following the broader collapse of American steel that devastated dozens of communities across western Pennsylvania and the Ohio Valley, Rankin lost its reason for existing. Current population, approximately 1,800, down from a peak of over 6,000. Median home price, around $35,000. What time stopped in Rankin looks like is specific and photogenic in the way that American deindustrialization tends to be. Brick row houses from the early 1900s, some maintained, some not. Streets laid out for a population 3 times the current one, with gaps where houses used to be. A main street with businesses that closed in decades, that are now long enough ago that the closures feel historical rather than recent. What Rankin has that many similarly situated towns don't is proximity to Pittsburgh's recovery. The city 20 minutes away has rebuilt around technology, healthcare, and education in ways that some Mon Valley communities are beginning to benefit from. The question for Rankin is whether that recovery, moving outward from Pittsburgh like a slow tide, reaches communities like this one before the remaining population makes any recovery impossible. A lifelong resident in his 60s, asked about the changes, said, "My father worked the mill, my uncle worked the mill. I was supposed to work the mill. When it closed, I was 17. I never really figured out what I was supposed to do instead. I don't think the town did either." That's time stopping, not a moment, a generation's worth of not knowing what comes next. Number 15, Goldfield, Nevada. Goldfield, Nevada was once the largest city in Nevada. Not the largest mining town, the largest city, period. In 1907, Goldfield had a population of approximately 20,000 people. It had electricity before many major American cities. It had a stock exchange. It had a hotel, the Goldfield Hotel, still standing, that was considered one of the finest in the American West, with a lobby that hosted politicians, businessmen, and boxing champions. Tex Rickard staged the Gans-Nelson World Lightweight Championship fight here in 1906, and it was one of the most attended sporting events of the era. Then, the gold ran out. Not all at once. These things are never all at once. But the ore grades declined. The water table rose in the mines. The cost of extraction exceeded the value of what was being extracted. And Goldfield, which had been built entirely on the premise of the gold being there, began the long arithmetic of subtraction. Current population, approximately 268. The Goldfield Hotel still stands. It is not operated as a functioning hotel in decades. It is one of the most photographed abandoned buildings in Nevada, a 4-story Edwardian structure in the middle of a town of 268 people, furnished with the specific poignancy of something that was built to impress and has spent a century impressing nobody in particular. What time stopped in Goldfield looks like is grand. The scale of what was here, the ambition of it, the confidence with which this town was built for a future that didn't arrive, makes the current silence feel proportionally enormous. You walk the streets of Goldfield, and the empty lots speak in volumes rather than whispers. This was not a small dream that faded. This was a city-sized dream that ran out of the specific geological resource it was based on. The weather in Goldfield is Nevada desert, indifferent to human presence in a way that feels almost philosophical after you've stood in front of that hotel for a few minutes. Hot in summer, cold at night. Wind that carries dust from the surrounding basin across streets that once held 20,000 people and now hold 268. One of those 268, a man who operates the combination gas station and local archive, said, "People come here expecting to feel something spooky. What they actually feel is just big. The empty is too big. That's what gets people." End quote. The empty is too big. That is exactly right. Number 14, Thurmond, West Virginia. Thurmond, West Virginia has a current permanent population of approximately 5 people. It has a functioning Amtrak station. The trains stop here twice a day, in each direction, and the 5 residents of Thurmond can board a train to Washington, D.C., or Chicago if they choose. Almost nobody does. Thurmond was a coal shipping town on the New River. At its peak in the early 20th century, it was processing more freight than the Cincinnati rail hub, a statistic that requires a moment to absorb because Thurmond now has 5 residents and a population that could fit comfortably in a minivan. The town is now almost entirely managed by the National Park Service as part of the New River Gorge National Park, a designation that has preserved the physical infrastructure of the town, including its remarkable 1904 depot, while doing nothing to restore the population that once used that infrastructure. Walking through Thurmond is the most complete time-stopping experience on this list, in physical terms. The buildings are maintained, the depot is staffed during park hours, the streets are laid out for a functioning town, and there are 5 people living in it, in the middle of one of the most spectacular river gorges in the eastern United States, served by Amtrak twice daily, existing in a place that the National Park Service maintains as a historical artifact while actual humans continue to call it home. The 5 residents, by all accounts, are entirely fine with this arrangement. They have the gorge, they have the trains, they have the silence. One of them, interviewed by a travel writer, said, "People ask if it's lonely. I tell them I can be in Washington in 8 hours if I want. I just don't want." Time stopped in Thurmond around 1950. The trains still come. Nobody gets off. Number 13. Buford, Wyoming. Buford, Wyoming was, for a period, the smallest town in America, with a single resident, one man, Don Salmons, who owned the town outright. The gas station, the house, the post office, the one-room school that hadn't operated as a school in decades. All of it. One man's town. Salmons bought Buford in 1992, after his son left for college and his wife passed away. He ran the gas station on Interstate 80, sold tchotchkes to travelers, and lived there alone for years, issuing his own municipal proclamations to nobody in particular and maintaining a town that existed largely because he decided it should. In 2012, Salmons put Buford up for auction. It sold for $900,000 to a Vietnamese businessman who renamed it Findeli Town Buford, marketed Vietnamese coffee there for a period, and then, when that venture ran its course, the town settled back into the quiet of being a gas station on a highway in southeastern Wyoming. Population functionally 0, elevation 8,000 feet, wind velocity personal. Current population, approximately 0 to 1 depending on who's staffing the station. What Buford represents in the taxonomy of time-stop towns is the pure distillation of the form. No industry that failed, no population that left. Just the logical endpoint of rural American geography. A place that exists because the highway goes past it and someone decided to put a gas station there. Sustained for decades by the specific stubbornness of one man who decided that a town of one was still a town. The wind on Interstate 80 through this part of Wyoming is the kind that makes you understand why most of the surrounding terrain is empty. It is not a suggestion, it is a structural fact of the landscape. Don Salmons ran a gas station in it for 20 years by himself. Respect, honestly. That's a particular kind of American. Number 12. Centralia, Illinois. Not Centralia, Pennsylvania, the one with the underground coal fire that we've covered before. Centralia, Illinois, which has its own version of a slow-motion stoppage, considerably less dramatic and considerably more representative of what time stopping actually looks like for most of the towns on this list. Centralia, Illinois is a small city of about 12,000 people in southern Illinois, once a regional center for coal mining and railroad activity. The coal is gone. The railroad hub status is gone. What remains is a community trying to figure out what the next chapter is, in a part of Illinois that has been waiting for that chapter for about 40 years. Median home price, around $75,000. Cost of living significantly below national average. Unemployment above state average. Population declining slowly, like a battery that's been draining since the 1980s and is somewhere past halfway now, but not yet dead. What makes Centralia interesting as a case study in time stopping is how ordinary it is. No single catastrophic event. No famous decline, no documentary, just the accumulated weight of economic shifts that left a region behind and a community doing what communities do, maintaining the institutions, running the festivals, keeping the high school football program going, building lives inside the circumstances available. The clock tower in downtown Centralia is a local landmark. It has been there since 1928. It works. The time it shows is correct, which is somewhat ironic in a town where the economic clock stopped decades ago and nobody has quite agreed on how to restart it. A young woman who grew up in Centralia and returned after college said, "Everyone leaves. I left. I came back because my parents are here and the house is paid off and I can work remotely. I'm not sure if that's a choice or just what happened. Maybe those are the same thing. Maybe those are the same thing." That sentence does a lot of work for understanding how time-stop towns maintain their populations. Number 11. Lorado. West Virginia. Lorado is a coal camp town in Logan County, West Virginia, built specifically to house coal miners and their families in the early 20th century. The company, Island Creek Coal, built the houses, owned the houses, and when the coal economy changed, left the houses behind for the families who had nowhere else to go. Current population, approximately 300. There is no grocery store in Lorado. There is no gas station. There is a community center that is open sometimes. There are houses built for coal miners that are now occupied by the descendants of coal miners in a county where the coal economy has largely collapsed and the infrastructure that was never particularly robust has been declining for decades. Logan County, West Virginia, has one of the highest rates of prescription opioid dispensing per capita in the United States. That statistic is not separate from the story of Lorado and towns like it. It is the story. When the economic structure that a community was built around disappears and nothing fills the space it occupied. Not retraining programs, not new industries, not infrastructure investment. That space gets filled by something. The opioid crisis in southern West Virginia is not a moral failure of individuals. It is the predictable outcome of systematic abandonment, and Lorado is one of hundreds of communities in this region living inside that outcome. Time stopped in Lorado when Island Creek Coal restructured its operations. The company moved on, the people had nowhere to move to, and the houses the company built are still standing, still occupied, still waiting for an economic logic that has not arrived. A man in his 50s who was born in Lorado and has never lived anywhere else said, "My granddad came here because the coal was here. My dad stayed because my granddad was here. I stayed because my dad was here. At some point the reason changes but the staying doesn't." End quote. At some point the reason changes but the staying doesn't. Write that down. That is the clearest explanation of time-stopped towns that exists. Number 10. Cahaba, Alabama. Cahaba, Alabama was the first state capital of Alabama. It was a functioning, ambitious city with a courthouse, hotels, newspapers, and all the infrastructure of a state's administrative center. It flooded repeatedly. The Alabama and Cahaba rivers, which meet at Cahaba, have a relationship with the town that can only be described as persistent. The flooding was bad enough that the state capital was moved to Tuscaloosa in 1826, then to Montgomery in 1846. Each move took more people, more resources, more institutional weight. Then the Civil War came through, then Reconstruction, then the specific economic pressures of post-Reconstruction Alabama. By 1900, Cahaba had approximately 3 residents. The last resident left sometime in the early 20th century. What's left is operated by the Alabama Historical Commission as Old Cahaba Archaeological Park. The streets are still there, visible as raised earthworks under the grass and the trees. The cemetery is maintained. The ruins of a few structures remain. The rivers still flood it periodically, which they were always going to do. Cahaba is time-stopping in its most complete form. Not slowing, not declining, stopped. The city is gone. The idea of the city is preserved under a grass field at the confluence of 2 rivers that were never going to cooperate with the ambitions of the people who chose to build there. Visiting Cahaba on a summer morning, Spanish moss in the trees, the rivers visible through the vegetation, the ghost of a street grid under your feet, is one of the stranger experiences in Alabama. You are walking through the negative space where a capital city used to be. The silence there is not eerie. It is just complete. Number 9. Infrastructurally frozen. Cairo, Illinois. Revisited. We mentioned Cairo earlier in a different script, and it deserves a full entry here because Cairo's time-stopped quality is different from every other town on this list in one specific and important way. Cairo didn't stop because it was small. Cairo stopped from a position of geographic inevitability that should have made it one of the great American cities. The confluence of the Ohio and the Mississippi rivers, the point where the 2 longest rivers in North America meet, sits at Cairo's southern tip. This is one of the most strategically significant pieces of American real estate that exists. It is the reason Cairo was platted in 1818. It is the reason Abraham Lincoln recognized its strategic importance during the Civil War and used it as a Union staging ground. It is the reason Cairo appeared, in the mid-19th century, to be on a trajectory toward becoming a major American city. Current population, approximately 1,700. Down from 15,000 in the 1920s. The vacancy rate in Cairo's building stock exceeds 70%. The median home price is around $25,000 for properties that are selling at all, which many aren't. What stopped Cairo is a story of racial violence, economic disinvestment, political abandonment, and the specific cruelty of watching a place with every geographic advantage fail anyway, because the people in power decided, repeatedly and explicitly, that its black majority population was not worth the investment required to make the geography pay off. The levees that protect Cairo from the rivers it was built between are federally maintained. They are the only reason the town still physically exists. The Army Corps of Engineers maintains the infrastructure that keeps the Ohio and Mississippi from reclaiming the land. The federal government maintains the levees of a town that the state of Illinois and the federal government otherwise treat as a write-off. Standing on Cairo's levee, looking at the confluence of two continental rivers is an experience that does not have a comfortable resolution. The geography is extraordinary. The town behind you is nearly empty. Both of those things are true simultaneously. Time didn't just stop in Cairo. Time was stopped. There is a difference, and Cairo is the difference. Number 8. Fordyce, Arkansas. Fordyce, Arkansas is a small city in the Arkansas coastal plain, about 3,500 people, a functioning downtown that is approximately 40% occupied, and the specific quality of a town that peaked in the mid-20th century and has been in a slow, dignified, unremarkable decline ever since. It is also the hometown of Bear Bryant, which is the piece of information Fordyce leads with, because when your most famous son became the most celebrated college football coach in American history, you put that on the water tower and you keep it there. What makes Fordyce worth discussing in this context is how ordinary its time stopping is. No dramatic event, no environmental catastrophe, no single industry collapsing, just the slow arithmetic of rural Arkansas economics. Timber that was mostly worked out by mid-century, agriculture that mechanized and stopped needing people, young people who looked at Fordyce and looked at Little Rock 2 hours north and made the calculation that most young people in most small American towns make. The Dollar General is busy. The hardware store has been there since 1962 and is still technically open 4 days a week. The diner serves breakfast and lunch only, closes at 2, and has not updated the menu in a period that the owner would prefer not to specify. The high school football team is taken seriously in a way that requires understanding small-town Southern culture to fully appreciate. On a Friday night in the fall, the stands are full. The rest of the week, the town is quiet in the way that towns are quiet when the population has quietly, incrementally, become mostly people over 50. A teacher at the high school said, "I tell my students that Bear Bryant grew up here, and look what he did." They listen politely, and then most of them leave after graduation, and I can't honestly say I blame them. She's been teaching there for 22 years. She's still there. That is also a kind of answer to the question of why these towns persist. Number 7. Picher, Oklahoma. Revisited in full. We mentioned Picher in the context of the creepy towns list, but Picher deserves a full entry here because Picher is not just time stopped. Picher is time obliterated in a way that is unique in American municipal history. Picher was a lead and zinc mining town in northeastern Oklahoma, part of the Tri-State Mining District. At its peak in the early 20th century, it produced enormous quantities of the metals that financed 2 world wars. The chat piles, mountains of mine waste that surrounded the town like geological features, were so large that children sledded down them in winter. The chat piles were radioactive. The groundwater was contaminated with heavy metals. The ground beneath the town was riddled with mine tunnels that created subsidence risks. Sinkholes opening in yards, under streets, under houses. A federal study in the 1990s found that 34% of Picher children had toxic levels of lead in their blood. The EPA designated Picher the most toxic Superfund site in the country. The federal government began buying out residents. A tornado in 2008 destroyed much of what remained. The last holdout families left in 2009. Current population, approximately 6 people who have legal life estates and have refused to leave. The school is still standing, the desks are still inside, the textbooks are still on the shelves. That is not a metaphor. The desks and the textbooks are literally still there because the evacuation happened fast enough and completely enough that the building was simply locked and left. The physical evidence of a functioning school is preserved inside a building in a town that has been legally uninhabitable for 15 years. If you want to understand what time stopping looks like at its most complete and most disturbing, Picher is the answer. Not the romantic stillness of Monowi or the grand emptiness of Goldfield. The specific frozen quality of a place where the stopping was forced, sudden and complete, where the last day of school happened and then there was never another one and the chairs are still pushed in at the desks. Number 6. Mentone, Texas. Mentone is the county seat of Loving County, Texas, the least populated county in the United States. Loving County has a population of approximately 64 people, making it less populated than most apartment buildings in Austin, which is 200 miles east. Mentone is a collection of buildings on a flat, arid stretch of the Permian Basin. A courthouse, a post office, a few houses. The courthouse is functional. Loving County has a county government, with elected officials, performing the administrative functions of county governance for 64 people. The county judge, the county clerk, the county sheriff, the tax assessor, these positions exist. They are filled. The apparatus of Texas county government operates in Loving County for a constituency that could fit in a single city bus. What makes Mentone fascinating rather than simply small is the oil. The Permian Basin, of which Loving County is a part, is one of the most productive oil regions in the world. The county's tax base from oil production is significant. A county of 64 people has more money per resident than most Texas counties many times its size. But the money doesn't produce people. The infrastructure doesn't produce amenity. There is no restaurant in Mentone. There is no grocery store. The nearest town with a gas station is a significant drive. The people who work the oil operations in Loving County largely commute from Pecos or Carlsbad rather than living in the county. Time stopped in Mentone before most of the people currently alive in the United States were born. What persists is the governmental structure, the oil revenue, and the specific Texan conviction that a county seat is a county seat regardless of how many people are available to seat. The county judge, when asked about the future of Loving County, said, "We've been the smallest county in America my whole career. I expect we'll continue to be. That's fine. Somebody's got to be smallest." That is a remarkably healthy attitude about time stopping. Somebody's got to be smallest. Number 5. Nucla, Colorado. Nucla, Colorado was founded in 1904 as a utopian cooperative community, a socialist experiment in the Colorado high desert where residents would share resources, make collective decisions, and build a model society on the banks of the San Miguel River. The utopia lasted longer than most utopias, which is something. The cooperative structure was formally dissolved in the 1960s. The socialism became just a town, and the town has been slowly declining ever since. Not because the utopia failed, it sort of worked, for a while, but because the geography of rural Colorado is unforgiving to small communities and the economic forces that make small western towns viable or unviable don't much care about founding ideals. Current population, approximately 700. Nucla became nationally notable in 2016 when it passed a resolution declaring it a gun-required town, a largely symbolic ordinance that was the town's response to national gun control discussions, and which generated enormous national media attention for approximately 2 news cycles before the attention moved on, and Nucla returned to being a small, declining town in a remote part of western Colorado. The coverage was interesting in retrospect because of what it revealed. Journalists who came to Nucla to write about the gun ordinance found a town that was more remarkable for its emptiness than for its politics. A main street with most storefronts vacant. A school with declining enrollment. A population that was aging and thinning and had found, in the gun ordinance, a way to insert itself into a national conversation from which it was otherwise entirely absent. Time stopped in Nucla when the cooperative dissolved and the economy of remote western Colorado didn't provide a substitute. The founding idealism is still present in the way small-town cultures preserve the stories they tell about themselves. The population is 700. The storefronts are mostly empty, but the river is beautiful, and that is genuinely not nothing in a list full of places where time stopped without scenery. Number 4. Thurber. Texas. Thurber, Texas, has a population of approximately 5 people. It has a water tower visible from Interstate 20 that announces its name to the roughly 40,000 cars that pass it daily. Almost none of those cars stop. Thurber was a coal mining company town, owned entirely, every building, every street, every inch of it, by the Texas and Pacific Coal Company. At its peak in the early 20th century, it had 10,000 residents, an opera house, a brick manufacturing operation, and the distinction of being the only fully unionized town in Texas. A fact that the Texas and Pacific Coal Company accepted because the alternative was a strike it couldn't afford. Then oil replaced coal. The company pivoted. The mines closed. The company sold the brick manufacturing equipment and left. The residents, who owned nothing, no houses, no land, nothing, had nowhere to stay and no reason to stay, and almost all of them left. Almost all. What remains in Thurber is a smokestack, the original brick smokestack from the coal operations, and a steakhouse. The W.K. Gordon Museum, affiliated with Tarleton State University, maintains a small interpretive presence, and 5 people or so live in what was once a city of 10,000, within sight of an interstate highway that carries the modern Texas economy past them at 75 miles per hour. The smokestack is the thing. It's enormous. It rises from the empty landscape like a monument to something that was absolutely certain of itself and then wasn't. You can see it from miles away on I-20. Most people look at it from the car and keep driving. The steakhouse is, by multiple accounts, quite good, which is either a comfort or a detail too specific to make any grand point with, but it felt worth including. Time stopped in Thurber the day the company left. The company owned the town. When the company left, the town became the smokestack and 5 people and a steakhouse that knows its audience. Number 3. Bodie, California. Revisited in full. Bodie deserves a full entry in this list because Bodie's time stopping is managed, officially, deliberately, with state resources allocated to maintaining the specific quality of stopped that Bodie represents. The California Department of Parks and Recreation maintains Bodie in a state of what it calls arrested decay. Not restoration, not preservation in the traditional sense of stabilizing and maintaining the buildings in their original condition. Arrested decay. The buildings are allowed to continue aging, slowly, under the California sun and the Sierra Nevada winters, with structural interventions only when collapse is imminent. The interiors are preserved exactly as they were found. Dishes on tables, bottles on shelves, calendars on walls, beds made in rooms that nobody has slept in since the 1940s. This is a radical and specific philosophical position about time stopping, that the most honest thing you can do with a place where time stopped is stop the stopping at exactly the point where it happened, and let visitors experience the specific temperature of that moment. At its peak, Bodie had a population of approximately 10,000 people and a reputation as one of the most violent towns in the American West. Murders were common enough that the local newspaper tracked them with the particular matter-of-factness of a community that had accepted violence as a weather condition. There was a saying, attributed to a young girl whose family was moving to Bodie, that she had written in her diary, "Goodbye, God, we are going to Bodie." The gold ran out. The population dispersed. The last residents left in the 1940s. What you walk through in Bodie today is a town preserved at the moment of abandonment, not restored to its peak, not cleaned up, not made comfortable. The buildings are exactly as they were when the last person locked the door and didn't come back. The interiors contain the specific evidence of stopped lives, the personal effects that weren't worth taking, the furniture too heavy to move, the calendar still showing a month in a year that has been over for most of a century. The Bodie curse is real, in the sense that it produces real behavioral changes. The Park Service's collection of returned stolen items and the apology letters accompanying them is genuinely one of the stranger archival collections in the California state system. People steal rocks, old nails, fragments of glass. Then bad things happen. Then the items come back with letters that range from contrite to genuinely frightened to one that simply says, "Please take it back and make it stop." Whether the curse is real is not the point. The point is that Bodie generates enough guilt in its visitors that some of them actually mail things back to a ghost town. That is a specific and remarkable power for a town of 0 residents to have over the living. Time stopped in Bodie in the 1940s. The state of California is paying to keep it exactly that stopped, and the town is so thoroughly arrested in its moment of abandonment that it makes people steal things, and then feel bad about it, and then mail the things back. That is a form of community engagement that most functioning towns would envy. Number 2. Gary, Indiana. The full story. We touched on Gary in the affordable housing list. Gary deserves its full examination here because Gary's time stopping is, in terms of sheer physical scale, unlike anything else on this list. Gary was founded in 1906 by U.S. Steel, built from scratch in 2 years, on the Indiana Dunes on the southern shore of Lake Michigan, specifically to house workers for the largest steel plant in the world. U.S. Steel named it after the company's chairman, Elbert Gary, who never visited. The city was built by and for the steel industry with a totality of purpose that left no ambiguity about what Gary was for. At its peak in the 1960s, Gary had a population of 178,000 people. It had a downtown with department stores, theaters, a hotel, restaurants, a civic life. It had neighborhoods, real, dense, brick-built neighborhoods, full of working-class families who had come from across the American South and from Europe for the jobs that Gary represented. Then the American steel industry collapsed. Then the white flight that had already been underway accelerated. Then the downtown emptied. Then the tax base collapsed. Then the city services degraded. Then the crime rose. Then more people left. Then the school system deteriorated. Then more people left. Current population, approximately 68,000, down 62% from the peak. Gary's downtown is not just empty. It is empty on a scale that produces a specific visual effect that photographers have been documenting for decades. City Methodist Church, a massive Gothic structure on Washington Street, has been roofless since the 1970s. Its interior open to the sky, trees growing from the floor between the pews. The Palace Theater, the Genesis Convention Center, the Gary Hotel, buildings of genuine architectural ambition, built with the confidence of a city that believed in its own future, now standing in various states of structural compromise in a downtown that sees more photographers than shoppers on most days. What makes Gary different from every other time-stop town on this list is the scale at which the stopping happened. This was not a small town that dwindled. This was a city of nearly 200,000 people that lost 110,000 of them over 60 years and still has 68,000 people in it. People who wake up every morning in the physical infrastructure of a city built for 3 times their number. The operating schools are surrounded by closed schools. The functioning neighborhoods are adjacent to entirely vacant blocks. The living city and the stopped city share the same street grid. You can drive from block to block in Gary and cross the line between the present and the past so many times that the distinction starts to blur. A photographer who has documented Gary for 15 years said, "People want it to be sad. It is sad, but it's also alive in places. The problem is, the alive parts and the dead parts are mixed together so completely that neither one is fully what it appears to be. That is Gary. The alive parts and the stopped parts mixed together so completely that neither one is fully what it appears to be. The most complicated time-stopped town in America. By volume, by history, by the specific weight of what it once was and what it currently is simultaneously." Number 1. Detroit, Michigan. Detroit keeps coming back. It keeps coming back because no American city tells the story of time stopping, and time's ambiguous relationship with stopping, with more complexity, more scale, and more genuine unresolved tension than Detroit. We've talked about Detroit's numbers in other contexts. The population dropping from 1.85 million at the peak to under 640,000 today. The median home prices that are still, in certain neighborhoods, lower than a used car. The physical evidence of a city built for 3 times its current population. The schools, the churches, the theaters, the apartment buildings, the factories, standing in various states of structural compromise across a land area larger than San Francisco, Boston, and Manhattan combined. But what makes Detroit the number 1 entry on a list about towns where time stopped and nobody noticed is the specific and uncomfortable truth that time did not stop in Detroit uniformly or completely, and the places where it didn't stop are right next to the places where it did, in ways that produce an experience of the city unlike anything else in America. Downtown Detroit, the Woodward Corridor, Midtown New Center, has been actively rebuilt over the last 15 years. The investment is real, visible, and significant. Businesses that didn't exist a decade ago, residential conversions of historic buildings, tech offices, restaurants, the energy of a place that is, in specific pockets, genuinely alive in the way that growing cities are alive. 2 miles east or west of that corridor, you can stand on a street where half the houses have been demolished and the lots have gone to grass, and the remaining houses are occupied by people who have watched their neighborhood lose half its population and most of its infrastructure over the course of their lifetimes, and are still there because where else would they go? The contrast is not incidental. It is the central fact of Detroit's current existence. The recovery of downtown Detroit is real. The abandonment of Detroit's residential neighborhoods is also real. Both things are happening simultaneously, in the same city, and the distance between them is sometimes measurable in blocks. Time stopped in certain Detroit neighborhoods in the 1960s and 1970s, and never restarted. Time is actively running in certain Detroit corridors right now, at a pace that might eventually reach those neighborhoods, or might not, depending on forces that are mostly economic and therefore mostly indifferent to the people waiting. What makes Detroit the definitive time-stopped American place is not the abandonment, it's the coexistence. The fact that you can eat at a world-class restaurant and then drive 15 minutes and stand in front of a cathedral that has been open to the sky for 40 years and then drive 5 more minutes and find a block of completely maintained houses where people are raising children and going to work and doing the ordinary things that constitute a life in any functioning city. The time-stopped Detroit and the present tense Detroit are not separated by geography. They are separated by history and economics and policy and the specific ways that American cities distribute their recoveries, which is to say, unevenly, in ways that correlate strongly with race and wealth and who gets to benefit from the investment and who has been waiting for it long enough that waiting itself has become the condition of their lives. A man in his 70s who was born in Detroit and has never left, sitting on the porch of a house he owns on a block that has 7 occupied houses and 4 vacant lots, said, "People keep asking if Detroit is coming back. I've been here my whole life. It never left. It just got rearranged. The question is, who the rearrangement is for? Who the rearrangement is for? That is the question. Not just for Detroit. For every town on this list. For every place where time stopped and somebody stayed and the country kept moving. And the question of whether it's coming back depends entirely on who you're asking and what coming back would mean for them specifically. Time stopped in these towns. In some of them, it stopped quietly and completely, in ways that are beautiful in a particular melancholy register. Monowi, Bodie, Thurmond. In some of them, it stopped violently and left damage that persists. Picher, Gary, Cairo. In some of them, it is still in the process of stopping, slow enough that the people inside it can still debate whether stopping is actually what's happening or whether this is just a pause. But in all of them, someone stayed. Someone is still there. Someone decided that a place where time stopped was still a place worth being in. That is either the most stubbornly human thing imaginable or the saddest thing on this list, depending on the town and the person and what staying cost them. Probably both. These things are usually both. So there they are, 18 American towns where time literally stopped and nobody noticed. Some of them are beautiful. Some of them are devastating. Some of them are both at the same time on the same street, which is the most honest version of what time stopping in America actually looks like. What I want you to take from this list is not nostalgia. Nostalgia is comfortable, and these places aren't entirely comfortable. What I want you to take is the question underneath all of it. What do we owe the places that got left behind? What do we owe the people who stayed? What does it mean that the country built cities and towns and communities and then, when the economic logic shifted, simply stopped maintaining its end of the arrangement and called the resulting decline inevitable? It wasn't inevitable. None of these declines were inevitable. They were the result of choices about infrastructure investment, about industrial policy, about who gets the highway and who doesn't, about whose neighborhood is worth the levee maintenance and whose isn't. Time stopped in these towns because someone, somewhere, decided to stop winding the clock. And in most cases, that someone was not the people who stayed. If this made you think about a town you know, one that didn't make this list but should have, drop it in the comments. I read them. The ones from people who grew up in these places are the ones I read most carefully. Like this video if it gave you something to sit with. Subscribe, because this channel is about the hidden logic of American places and the people inside them. See you in the next one.